Hello, lovely beings. I'm JJ Rose. This particular episode is going to have a lot of information packed in. I've had multiple downloads, smaller ones that I'm used to, but they're kind of all over the place, and so I'm just going to kind of smush them all together because I got some hasty energy today that told me I had to do this now. And because I don't want my hands slapped by spirit, I am listening. So the first download that I got is a direct message that I wrote down. I'm going to go ahead and read it. I got this on the 11th of March. The veil is open, more so than ever before. The partition betwixt our world and realms beyond ours. This is being called the quickening or the awakening by some. I call it the remembering. We are beginning to remember that which we have been veiled from for so long before. Do not fret if you think you aren't ready or if you've not made enough progress. All will be exactly where you need to be when the time comes. Most of you are in a very heavy time of growth, renewal, and learning. Hearken unto thee with whom predestiny has been placed. Sense and logic have been ignored deliberately by ugly powers that be. That's what I got on that first one. And I literally had the information come. I wrote it down verbatim. I read it to you verbatim. In regards to that information in particular, I have said many times, I'm not here really... I call it teaching, but in reality, I'm just helping people remember that which they forgot. So yes, in a way, with the veil being open, a lot of us are remembering things that we have forgotten over time. I have had more than a few people tell me that they feel like their gifts aren't coming to fruition fast enough, or they're feeling like a little lost in regards to what their purpose is, or what their next quote-unquote job is supposed to be. Not even just like career-wise, but just kind of in general. So to address that head on, there are a lot of you right now who are in this huge learning pattern. And you're probably kicking yourselves thinking, why am I not able to do this or that or experience this? You're learning about it so that when the time comes for you to actually experience it, you're not going to freak out, which actually is a humongous gift, because a lot of people like myself didn't come with the pre-warning. We weren't taught any of this. We all of a sudden just had the ability to do it. And, that can take you a bit aback. And some of you out there are very logical thinkers. Like, your brains are almost like engineer brains, I call you, that everything has to fit into a cubbyhole or a box, and it has to make sense in order for you to be able to even process what's happening. So for you right now in this intense learning pattern, be easy on yourself, because if that's the way that your brain works, when it's time, you will already have learned enough about all this stuff for these experiences to make sense to you, instead of you either blowing them off, not really realizing what they are, or in other cases, having situations where they're so intense and so confusing that they would put you in a dead stop instead of propel you forward. I want to give a huge shout out to one person in specific. She not only is on Eric's Uncomfortable Discord under the name Bloodfeather, she's shared her story as well in Eric's most recent episode, Discord. And her name is Bloodfeather. She is one of the people that I know, if you guys are on Eric's Uncomfortable Discord, she would be more than happy to talk to you about her experiences. I know she's talked about them in the campfire, as well as the recorded episode. If you guys want to listen to that, it is the most recent episode of Uncomfortable. That is episode 108, Discord Confessions. She is the first story on there, and I can tell you, knowing her for pretty much as long as I have, almost a year, and seeing her completely bloom in the course of a week. That's what I'm talking about when I'm telling you that, you guys, if things haven't manifested or, quote unquote, erupted for you yet, it's because you're in a time of learning and assimilating all this information, so that when your time comes for you to open up, you're going to do so gracefully, you're going to do so without fear and without self-limitation. And it's going to be absolutely marvelous. And I'm so excited for all of you. So please don't put that added pressure on yourself. There are others of you who do have very specific gifts. And I understand that you might not look at them as a gift per se, because it's not always some of the happiest stuff to work with. It's not always great when you are helping spirits of those who have passed on, to cross over, because there's a lot of trauma there and a lot that goes with that. It's not always easy sometimes to have precognition in regards to certain events. I get that. I live this on a daily basis. Trust me, there's pros and cons to everything. The only thing that I could tell you is that if those gifts are reemerging, or if you're suddenly being pulled towards doing that work, please do it and find the joy in it, because there really is joy in everything. Even in the work that I do, as intense and ugly as it can be at times, where I have to get in some really ugly, gnarly situations, it's so wonderful at the end of the day to see someone be freed up, to see someone's energy clear, to see the dramatic changes in their lives as a result of understanding, whether it be what got them in the situation that they're in, or free out of whatever negative energy or entities that were holding them back. Like I said, there's precognition, i.e. being psychic, knowing the future. It's a really, really great thing, right? At certain times. And then there's times when it's not so great, when you're sitting there with this deep knowing that something ugly or nasty or horrible is about to happen, and there's nothing you can do to change it. And you don't even know enough information to even know where to look, but you know it's going to happen, and you don't want to sound like the crazy person. So you keep your mouth shut and you hold it in. To those of you who have that, although it is awful, just remember that energetically, the reason why you would know that is because in some capacity whatsoever, you are helping those people who are going to be affected, whether it's physically or whether it's spiritually and energetically, helping support the people who are going to be affected by whatever it is that is going to occur. That could be via meditation. It could be via your higher self. It could be just you maybe praying for the situation and for the people that are going to be affected. And that right there, coming from your heart, knowing that people are going to have some growth from this, there's going to hopefully be change from whatever the situation is. I know it's really, really rough when you're going through those moments and you're thinking, like, why do I even know this is going to happen? And this is so awful. There's nothing I can do to prevent it. Go into prayer, go into meditation. That's when you start sending, healing and good vibes to those who are going to be affected. There's always a positive. You just sometimes have to dig really, really hard for the positive. And, unfortunately, I get a lot of information sometimes. Sometimes it's super random information. I have no clue why it came to me, or why I'm the one who now all of a sudden has to pass it on, or what am I even supposed to do with this, because it's not easily passed on information. But I know that if I'm given that gift for whatever reason, for whatever level I'm working on, there's a reason for it much higher than just my understanding. And there are things that have taken me years to understand. I mean, like half my lifetime or more, to fully comprehend and understand why that happened, or why I even knew that, or why I saw that. There's still things to this day I have no concept or clue and understanding of why I've been a part of. But I have been. And just the same as all of you out there. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of you that reach out to me, which I adore, by the way, thank you. A lot of you that reach out to me, it's a total mixed bag. But when I start getting clusters of you reaching out and you're all kind of dealing with something very similar, that's when I want to speak on it from whatever educated place I can, if I've been there before, and or have information on it. I don't do these episodes just to talk or put content out for any reason other than there's an actual important message out. That's why my stuff is not out on a regular basis, and why I don't have a podcast or a radio show, because I only do it when there's something important to say. Now, that being said, who finds my stuff important is up to whomever you are at that time, and you will know and you will be ready for it. And that's when people will suddenly find this. And if people find this via you taking this information and passing it along, and they never hear about me, never listen to my episodes, I'm okay with that. Please, if this resonates positively with you, if it makes sense, go out and spread good in the world. It doesn't need to be my name. Like I said, I keep myself in the background. I'm kind of obscure, and I do that because this is way bigger than myself. Just the same as all of you who reach out to me, you have these huge circles of people that you affect. And sometimes all the change that's needed is one little change within yourself, and that exponentially grows out into all these other people in your life. And you're sitting there thinking, oh, I'm nothing special. I'm not doing anything very much, or I'm not really contributing to the world in any big way. But you are. If you really stand back and think about even the sheer number of people you have contact with, that's incredible. I mean, that just grows on an exponential basis. So although it's great to be humble, and I get it, at the same time, don't put yourself in a box and tuck yourself away in the back of the closet. There's no need for that. It's okay to understand that you have a place in this world and to step up, take your power back, and take it. Now, this next part's going to be kind of an odd little random message that I'm going to shove in here, but there is a reason. There are a lot of people going through some very massive fundamental changes right now in their lives. And that is not only emotionally, but that's also spiritually. And there's going to be a lot of people who think that they're backing one horse when in reality they're backing the other side. I'm going to leave that there. Furthermore, this is the time to have empathy and compassion. But you are not a doormat, nor am I. We are humans, we have emotions, and emotions are valid. And there are times when you, or even myself, are allowed to get very upset if we're mistreated. We are allowed to be, upset, sad, angry, whatever it is, if we are truly mistreated, meaning there was no reason for the other person or persons to act towards us a certain way. But the important thing is putting it in prayer and putting it in perspective, getting back up, taking all your power back from the situation, pulling all your energy from somebody or somebodies, if you need to cut off certain people as a result, and walk away. And a friend brought something to my attention recently in a situation that happened with myself. And she asked, oh, did you do return to sender? And then she gave me this quizzical look, and I just kind of leered at her a little bit. And I said, hey, first and foremost, return to sender can be dangerous, okay? And I know I'm all over the place on this episode, but bear with me. If you don't know what return to sender is, it basically means if someone is sending you bad energy, bad juju, whatever you want to call it, bad magic, return to sender is basically when you put up like a mirror and it hits the mirror and it goes right back to whoever sent it. As a light worker, this is a very divisive issue, because a lot of people will say, well, if they're ready to dish it out, then they should be able to take it. As a light worker personally, I know how dangerous that can be, because I know how dangerous people can be, especially people who aren't very educated as to their spiritual power or magic or whatever it is that they're involved in. And so I'm stating this as a warning, okay? If you feel that someone is putting bad energy towards you or is sending bad vibes towards you, I personally do not agree with return to sender. But, as a caveat, what I do instead is I basically take the energy, I put it in a box, obviously, because I've bubbled, right? So nothing's getting in, but sometimes things are able to get through your bubbles. So you have to go into more overt protection. And that is when you are going to basically take the energy, put it in a box, you're going to cleanse and clear it, and then you're going to send it back to whomever sent it, i.e. return to sender, with a message. And the message to whoever sent it in the beginning is, I have strong, firm boundaries. I don't believe in what you're trying to do, but do not do it again because it's not going to work. And as a light worker, if a light worker is doing this, even if it's unknowingly to another light worker where they're sending bad energy or bad juju, and the other light worker does this where you cleanse and clear it and you send it back with that message, they will get the message. Now, if this is coming from a dark worker practitioner, meaning someone who's working on the opposite side of what I do, it doesn't necessarily hurt, but it stings a little bit. It's like rubbing alcohol on your face just after a shower when you've been sunburned. Just a little bit of a sting. But it's a sting, so it doesn't physically hurt them, but it's a little sting to remind them, do not do that again. So it will not hurt them, but again, the intent is to tell them, I'm not a doormat and you don't get to do whatever you want to do to me. I'm not here to play games. And that is A-okay. And the other really, really important thing, because we have a lot of people out there right now in the world who are playing with energy and playing with magic and playing with things they don't understand, because let's face it, we have all these apps out there and all these wonderful content creators, and a lot of youthful people are out there, and this is their bread and butter. This is what they enjoy doing, and I'm all for it. But please have a very good understanding of what it is you are doing before you go splatting out into the world garbage. Okay? That's my little lecture on that. To caveat on that, this is something that I've done personally in my life. Again, I am human. I have emotions. There are things that are going to make me upset. There are things that are going to hurt me. There are things that are going to make me upset at first, but in reality, I'm really hurt or sad by them. But my instant reaction is like to growl, right? Get feisty. And I know that about myself. So therefore, I make sure that I have a very safe and small circle of people that I can vent clearly to, that will be able to give me perspective, i.e., I'm not just letting bad energy run amok. I'm also able to control, with whatever I'm putting out, and control that. Not everyone is, but it is something you can do. And it is extremely important to make sure that if you are venting to other people, that you're putting it in perspective, i.e., not just all from your point of view. You want to see if you can consider the other side. Like, why would they have done that? Is there something I might have done that upset them? And at least give the person that you're venting to the possibility of there being another side to the story. Because unfortunately, we live in this very divisive time right now where people are very kind of black and white, right? It's either it's all this or all that. And let's face it, human interactions, rarely anything is, cut and dry. It's normally multifaceted. I believe, and maybe this is the looking for the good in everybody. But I honestly, truly believe that people aren't just born bad. That maybe people do bad things here and there, but even then, I feel like most people don't have the true negative intentions to do whatever they're doing. Sometimes it's just bad behavior. Sometimes it's bad emotionals. I'm just going to call it emotionals because that's a whole thing of its own. And maybe it's just, how the person gets along in the world or however they felt that day. But obviously we live in a highly emotionally charged time, and you have a lot of people just spouting off right now. And as a result of that, it is time to bubble. It is time to make sure that you are protected. Because if you are a sensitive or an empath, you are going to be feeling this, whether it's directed at you or not. And unfortunately, because there is a huge gap happening right now where people are taking sides, and a lot of them don't fully understand what side they're working for, unfortunately, there's a lot of nasty stuff being spewed out there. So again, I'm telling you, please bubble. Please make sure that you have a strong spiritual fortification. Make sure you have spiritual protection, especially if you are into the paranormal, if you're listening or watching to a lot of stuff like this, especially stuff that isn't always necessarily safe. There's a lot of stuff out there right now that comes with a lot of energetic whiplash. And with that whiplash, just a reminder, things are attracted to those large energy whiplashes. Okay, one more whittle bitty thing that I want to mention before I get into this weird ending crescendo of the eye. Okay, when it comes to spiritual protection and or magical protection, okay, whether it's you're coming from a basis of religion, you're coming from a basis of spirituality, you're coming from a basis of, magic, whether you're a witch, okay? Either of those, all of those. Here's a couple guideposts. If you do feel like there is negative energy coming your way and you are doing something, anything to actively, whether it's, catch, clear, and release program instead of return to sender, or whether it's just bubble yourself and hunker down, trying to weather the storm, or, whether you're actively putting certain stop gaps in place in order to make sure that certain things cannot get through, i.e. magic work, okay? Spell work. When it comes to having those in place, and this is going to sound a little paranoid of me, but let me explain, okay? When it comes to having those things in place, when you enact them, you do not talk about them. And I know there's some people out there saying, what? Okay, let me explain. So, particularly when it comes to spell work and heavy energetic work in regards to releases, manifestations, spiritual protection, magic protection, things like that. When you're doing that, or even if it's a heavy prayer of protection, you do not speak about it after you put it into motion. And the reason why is because you have now put all this energy into this protection, right? To do its job. And the more you talk about it with other people, what happens is people then latch into it and then they start drawing on that protection. And therefore it weakens the protection. So here's an analogy. Let's say I got myself a bulletproof vest. And immediately I want to tell all my friends. And so I have all my friends come over and they want to put it on and they want to put it on and they want to spread it out and everyone wants to get behind it and test it. Well, now it's not protecting just my body. Now it's protecting everyone's body. And therefore, there's going to be a lot of extremities that are now all of a sudden not protected by it because it can only be stretched so far. That's the same thing when it comes to energy protection and spell work. So the reason why I'm driving this home right now is because there are a lot of people right now who are feeling that they're under spiritual attack. And if you are blessed to have a few people in your life that you can speak openly to and you're working on things together, that's wonderful. You keep it within them. And once you put whatever it is in place, you kind of set it and forget it, and then you don't discuss it again. If you are doing specific spell work in regards to protection, once you put it into place, honestly, you really don't talk about it again, because you're letting the universe do its job through whatever it is that you put in place. This also actually goes for other spell work and other manifestation work as well. Kind of same thing. Once you do the energetic work, you give it up to the universe and you allow the universe to do with it how it will in order to make it happen for you. But when you keep talking about it over and over again, what you're doing is, without necessarily understanding, you're kind of bleeding it out of the energy that you originally gave it. Some people don't realize they're doing it, but they really are. So this is why I'm giving this, I feel like an 18-minute lecture on this, but a lot of this stuff has come up recently for very many people across the board and in so many various different situations. I'm just trying to cover as much as I possibly can so that everyone kind of understands the concept of why I recommend certain things not be discussed. Okay, you ready for the weird info? Because I am. So I painted the picture that is the backdrop for this episode back in November, mid-November, November 13th to be exact, of 2022. And when I painted it, honestly, it was for an art class. I was teaching someone art and we were discussing weird weather patterns and how to do cool things with clouds. And for whatever reason, this is what the painting that I did ended up looking like. Very weird. Not what we were going for, but it came out the way that it came out. I did not realize at the time the significance of what I had painted. Okay. I knew it was cool. I knew I was going to do an episode about the veil with this particular picture. It wasn't time yet, so that's why I've kind of held on to it, and it's already March. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because over the course of the past 3 weeks, I am up to about 8 or 9 people, about 7 whom directly reached out to me, and 2 that I've heard on various podcasts that have described having various situations. All of them are drastically different, so I won't go into all of them. But whether it's I woke up and I saw this, or all of a sudden I randomly saw this, or in my mind's eye I had a dream about this, or I was meditating and all of a sudden this came to me. And in these podcasts, these were some very interesting situations because the people were trying to describe them and everyone went to, the old description of the angels with all the eyes and the wheel. And they were like, no, it's like an eye and kind of like a mushroom. So I'm hearing all this and when people obviously were reaching directly out to me, after the second one, I was like, okay, so I actually would send them a picture of this painting that I did. And the feedback I was getting from pretty much everyone was, that's pretty much exactly what it looked like. Like the background and the scenery was different, but the cloud part that looks like a weird eye is what they were seeing. Do I exactly know what this is? No. Is this popping up all over the place? Yes. I have not, I admit, done enough research on if this is being talked about all over the place. I didn't Google this at all. It was literally just people who I've had personal correspondence with, as well as these 2 podcasts that it randomly came up in stories. And these were fairly recent. So I thought I'd mention it in case any of you out there have seen this, or if any of you out there have any clue why all of a sudden this is happening. Some people were thinking this is kind of like the third eye. I had other people thinking is this kind of like the eye in the sky type of situation. To be honest with you, I don't have a whole lot of information other than I painted this 4 months ago, and I find it really strange that never posting this picture and never really talking about it, having numerous people describe to me exactly what I painted. And I'm not even saying this is associated with me. Obviously, this is something way bigger. That being said, there's been a lot of weird lately. Okay? And it's been going on for me personally for, I don't know, I think I'm over a month and a half at this point. Very strange things. Take your vitamins, please. Make sure that you're taking well care of your body. I know that I tripled down on that, but hey, self-care is extremely important. And to be honest, for myself, self-care is extremely hard for me to do. I will pick up and help anybody else at a moment's notice, but doing something for myself is like pulling teeth out of a rabid jackal. So do not recommend. Do not recommend pulling a tooth out of a rabid jackal, by the way, unless you have a really good sedative and you are a veterinarian. But in spite of my little funny joke that I made, well, I thought it was funny anyway. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I suddenly had a drop in energy in February, and it was pretty dramatic drop in energy. I thought it was some things that were going on in my personal life. There's just a lot going on, and, weather and solar flares and, all the things, right? Because I am pretty good with my diet. I am pretty good with vitamins and supplements. And usually I know what's going on in my body. And so I just figured it was that and it will take care of itself. Well, it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point where I actually had to seek out a medical doctor because it is not normal. And it was affecting me in all sorts of different ways. So if I have lagged at getting back to you via email, I apologize. That's the reason why. Had some health challenges. But in my health challenge, I ended up finding out that my iron and magnesium were extremely low, which is also strange because I do take both of those daily. So in just wanting to share with people that I know, I ended up sharing this, and within 15 minutes, I had 5 people reach out to me and let me know that they have also been diagnosed with the same thing. And after an hour, it was up to 11 people. And, I think it was like a group chat of like 50 people. So that's a pretty huge swath of the population to offer that up right away. And those are just the people who wanted to say something. The reason I bring it up is because it's very odd, and every single person who reached out and let me know that this was happening for them and that they had had it medically tested and were either on supplements or blood transfusions, every single person was an energy worker in some aspect. So when I'm telling you take your vitamins and I'm being all super wolfy mama on you, it's because I don't know what's going on and depleting our vitamins. Obviously stress, I read a whole thing about anxiety and stress and how they can actually deplete the body of iron and magnesium really quickly. But just a weird little caveat, my dear friend Emily and I have started Spooky Book Club, and we decided to jump in and read the Mothman Prophecies. And so we've been doing that and just kind of comparing notes because both of us had heard that when people read this book in particular, a whole bunch of weird things start happening and synchronicities. Well, I was already having weird stuff happening before I even got the book. And what was really interesting is her and I ordered the book about 2 days apart, and it showed up on the 9th for both of us, which is really weird. She actually ended up getting the book before me. Her showed up right on time. Mine supposedly was delivered on the 9th, but the mailman decided to hide it in a super obscure place. So I had to walk all over the place in order to figure it out a day or two later, which was kind of weird. But I have been having an uptick on seeing things. I have been having an uptick on what I call visitors, where there's spiritual visitors that end up stopping by. Sometimes they're messages for me. Most of the time they're messages for other people. I relay them or check on things and do the best that I can. But there's a lot of activity. And there's a lot of activity also occurring at night when I am trying to go to sleep. And normally I'm very good at being able to kind of clear that out and make a nice space for myself to be able to fall asleep without all the riffraff and having to yell at things all night long, which does happen, unfortunately. But unfortunately, having low iron, one of the things is extreme fatigue and being tired. So I haven't had the great wealth of energy that I normally do. And I'm having things pop up left and right. I am having weird synchronicities happen to the point where I think of something and then someone I know will dream of it that night. And I say nothing about it. I have had my husband literally pop up and explain this entire theory that apparently he had that I never knew about, only to read the book and see that exact theory laid out the next day in the book that I was reading. I know Emily's had a whole bunch of strange little things too. Her and I have been kind of comparing notes when possible. Nothing extreme, nothing dangerous. Just a heads up, if you guys are going to go down that rabbit hole and read that book, just do it at a time in your life when you can actually handle stuff like this, because some of it has been a little weird. I'm used to weird, but when I tell you it's weird, it's super weird. So I covered the veil being open. I covered an uptick of activity. I covered why it's important to do spiritual protection. I covered this weird eyeball thing. I have tried to cover everything that has come in all of these weird little downloads that have come so randomly. Take your vitamins, eat well, make sure you're caring for your physical body as well as your emotional body and your spiritual body, because all three are combined. Okay. Last weird note in regards to the book, The Mothman Prophecies by Keel. There is a very specific part that I just read in which he's talking about people who have had experiences, not just seeing Mothman, but any type of experience of seeing something, whether it's UFO, paranormal, religious, anything. That apparently there's all these physical things that are very common with people who have had a big event or a big sighting. And one of them was a depletion in certain minerals and dehydration, which I thought was weird, considering that I had gotten the results from my doctor about 2 days before I read that in the book. So please take care of yourselves, take care of others, be kind when you can. And if you're not able to be kind because you need to take your power, that's okay. But keep whoever it is in your prayers afterwards, okay? Love and hugs to you all. I pray that everyone out there is doing fantastic. And I look forward to more stories from you guys.